Good morning, everybody. Hello, welcome to our webinar today. We're super excited to be here, talk to you a little bit about trade show and how to really make the most out of them. They're they can be expensive, but essential part of networking and getting your business. So best to make the best out of it and really work them hard. Just while the last of you are logging on, let's do some quick introductions. I'll introduce myself first. My name is Susanna Hardy, and I'm Chief Content Officer at a company called IBT Online. I'll talk that in a moment. And I'm really, really excited. We've got Molly. Molly is the team leader for the global advanced manufacturing sector of the U.S. Commercial Services. So really, really glad that Molly could join us today. And we're going to be focusing a lot on those advanced manufacturing companies and exporters as they go to trade shows and what that means. How is it important to get B2B links and databases up there. So thank you very much, Molly. And Molly is going to sort of go through a little bit about the advanced manufacturing team and where you can find resources and things. First, I wanted to say a quick word about us as a company. So IBT Online, we are what's called a full stack digital marketing company. What does that mean? It means we create websites, we do e-commerce, and we do online marketing for our clients. And we're really known, I think, for two things. The first is focusing on the mid-sized company and focusing on the international. So trying to help mid-sized companies grow their business internationally. I mean, obviously we do a lot in the US too. We're a US company, but we're also known for our international. And with that, we developed something called the Online Global Programs. And these are a very well-trodden path. Many states across the U.S. have adopted them, and they are a very well-trodden path for companies to develop their websites internationally, to reach new markets with their e-commerce, to talk and engage with prospects through online marketing. So that's it. And we're also really, really proud to say that we have signed for a second year in a row a strategic partnership agreement with the U.S. Commercial Service, notably for e-commerce. So we do a lot of learn-ins and teach-ins and things. And if you want, there's lots of stuff on their website about research and about trade missions and trade shows and things like that. If you go to the dedicated e-commerce website on the U.S. Commercial Service page. International Trade Administration page, and that's all about us as well. So if you want more information, there's that. Right, we've got a very full agenda. So let's look at the agenda now. I thought we'd start off with Molly just giving a little overview of U.S. Commercial Service and particularly advanced manufacturing, some trade shows coming up that are really, really great ones that you can flag as well. And then we're going to talk directly about the trade shows. They're back. What do you do before? How do you measure ROI? That's the big question I was asked in trade shows. What do you do during the trade show, after a trade show? And then I wanted to give a brief summary also about distributors and things. There's takeaways, there's next steps, and there's questions. This is very much a webinar dedicated and focused on you. So you've taken the time out of your busy days, put questions in, ask the questions that you've never had time to ask about before. We're here to help. We're here to explore. We will get to questions at the end, but put them in whenever you feel like it, and we'll try and address them as well. So with that, I'm going to hand over to what I've called a helping hand, U.S. Commercial Service, and particularly the advanced manufacturing team, to Molly.
Thanks, Susanna. What a great intro. And I'm excited to get the information out to companies that you guys have about trade show, like you said, ROI and everything that goes with that. And just to kind of give everyone who hasn't worked with the U.S. Commercial Service a little overview, we are under the U.S. Department of Commerce, under International Trade Administration. We are the U.S. Commercial Service, so we're the export promotion arm of the government. Our mission is to create jobs in the U.S. by helping U.S. companies sell internationally. And we do that a variety of ways. First, I'll let you know how we're set up. We are in over 100 U.S. cities, so you do have a local contact close to you. We can also help you find that if you don't know your local contact. And then our network is our colleagues at the embassies and consulates around the globe. We have dedicated staff focusing on industry, split up by industry sector. So we have someone in country, the boots on the ground that know the connections, know the market, know how to help, which is our biggest value add for U.S. companies and our biggest value add for the U.S. commercial service. As the U.S. government, we are able to hopefully, make some pathways for you into these countries, but we also offer the expertise. Like you can see kind of things that we do for U.S. companies, any kind of counseling on international business development. We're able to help your company decide like where the demand is, where the need is for your products, and then go ahead and do a foreign market selection and kind of prioritize those and how to enter that market, the best way to enter that. We do have, like I said, a lot of market intelligence, which is how we analyze the potential for you. But once working with your local specialists, a country, a foreign market is decided on, we do have a lot of ways we can help you enter that market successfully. We do business matchmaking, where we do find pre-screens potential partners that are matching the criteria you're looking for, that are interested in your company. As one way we can do that. We also do due diligence. So if you do find that partner that makes sense for your company, of course, we'd always advise due diligence, where we have the U.S. Embassy, work with and meet with a potential partner and give a feedback and a report on the due diligence. And lastly, we do commercial diplomacy or advocacy, anything to promote and advocate for U.S. businesses to expand globally. We are here to assist with that. And I think some of the things I kind of already talked about, kind of some of the matchmaking services we have, the advocacy and the due diligence. And one thing we haven't talked about is trade shows, which is the focus of this session today. And we really do support trade shows. We're at the domestic ones and international ones, the big ones for industry by sector. You can see kind of a list of some of the industry global teams we have there. And what we do a lot at trade shows is, of course, we're there to support U.S. companies, help them learn about international business. And our colleagues at the embassies and consulates bring foreign buyer delegates that are looking for U.S. solutions and U.S. products. So we are there to facilitate those introductions and make those connections on site at the trade show. You can also see kind of we also have, we want to cover all U.S. companies, so we do have a rural export centers out there for companies that aren't in cities. So we do still have contacts for your company, regardless of where you're located in the U.S. And focusing on the advanced manufacturing industry, we cover, advanced manufacturing, as you all know, can be anything from 3D additive, industrial materials, automation, robotics, and equipment and automation. And as you probably know, it crosses over a bunch of different sectors. So that's why it's kind of like the culmination of a lot of different industries we work together. You can go to this website. It has a lot of the events we're coming up, big trade shows that we do partner with. Some to note in the U.S. coming up, we have ProMat in Chicago, which is a material handling's trade show in March. And then we also have Automate in Detroit in May, which is probably one of the big integral trade shows for automation and robotics, where people come from all over to figure out how to make their manufacturing work or enhance it or anything like that in bits and pieces like that. And the one thing I did not mention yet is another thing we do is trade missions. So we take a group of U.S. companies to other countries and set up these, this B2B customized meetings, also, meetings at the embassies, site visits, learning about the market and entering that market. And fortunately, we have a big one coming up under advanced manufacturing to Turkey and Poland in September. So if any of those markets are of interest, feel free to apply for that trade mission, and we will get you a free assessment of your product and your solution in those markets, and we'll talk to you and go from there and see if that makes sense. But yeah, other than that, of course, it is trade show season coming up. I think we have, if you go to this website, I think we have like 7 or 8 coming up in the spring. There's like JEC in Paris. I mean, you can see Expo Manufacture in Mexico. So this is really timely. And I hope you can get a lot from all the expertise and the advice and suggestions coming up. Thanks,
Molly,
Susanna.
thank you so much. Thanks very much for that. And let's ask everybody: are you already transacting? Are you already exporting? Are you already doing business internationally? Just take your little mouse and just click on things, and then if you're doing it with local partners, or you're still thinking about it, or just even if you're doing it online, amazing, well done. Yeah, a lot of you are already there also online. That's really great to hear. Loving that. Thank you. Wow, I'm impressed. Thank you very much. Um, let's dive right in and talk about trade shows. Guess what? They're back, and they're back in a big way, as Molly was saying. They are full-fledged, active. Everyone's forgotten about any kind of COVID and distancing and all that stuff. So why do we like trade shows? What's so important about trade shows? Why do we like all being in this great big sort of crowded place? It doesn't sound very nice, but in fact, they're really important. Trade shows are amazing events that drive a buyer's journey. If you're from in a sales and marketing capacity, that it's events that push along a buyer along his journey of building trust and building knowledge about your company that finally ends up in a sale. And trade shows amalgamate all these things. They have, your sales cycle might be 9 months, might be a year, whatever. But in a trade show, you can condense all these events. You can have a meeting, a competitor review, a display of competence, client testimonials. You all have it in one trade show. So that's why we like it. They're just focused and concentrated levels of multi-events in a trade show, which allow you to drive and accelerate a buyer's journey. That's what a trade show is really about. That being said, trade shows are a little bit different. They've changed. There's. I'm glad to say that the totally virtual trade show is kind of like a big flop that didn't really take off. But a lot of them are more hybrid than they used to be. They're more reliant on tech, on streaming, on video, on online platforms, engaging with real audiences, and so there's this mix, this hybrid. They've tended also to increase in cost. And most companies have scaled down and concentrated their efforts on trade shows. So they're going to fewer trade shows, but investing more per trade show. There's this whole, as I said, this interactive and immersive part of trade shows now. People are expected to have more imagery, more ability to connect, and perhaps do simulations even. So there's a lot more sort of the increased use of technology that are going to help that. So there you go. So trade shows are definitely back, but they're a little bit different, perhaps a little bit more demanding than they used to be in some ways. Less about walking around booths and things like that, and more about making sure that you are engaging in a correct way. One of the first things you want to do with when you're looking at your trade show and your trade show schedules for the year is figure out your goals. Because every trade show that you attend should have some kind of return on investment and a calculation on that. And to have that, you first need to define your goals. And your goals, I mean, everybody always says, I want to grow my sales. I want to increase turnover. That's my goal. But it shouldn't just be about that. Trade shows are also about growing your brand awareness, about expanding your network, growing your databases, making sure that your company is seen as the thought leader in a specific field, so that you can really develop all these things within a trade show. And then what we'd like you to do and think about is saying, okay, what are my priorities in here? I want to generate sales. How much sales do I need to justify that trade show? But what about the other aspects of a trade show? How do I measure them as well? How do I apply a monetary value to these things, or should I? And we think you should in order to calculate your return on investment. So for us, every trade show has to be sort of thought about why we're going to this trade show, why have we chosen it, how are we going to engage with it, and what will the returns be. So here's a little sort of cheat sheet. It's the first of a couple, by the way, in this presentation. What we'd like to do with our clients is figure out, first of all, your budget, what you need as a return on that budget, and how to get that budget. So that's how to get that return. Now, we talked about sales. Sales are easy to measure. That's an easy thing. Okay, I go to a trade show, I want X amount of sales to justify my cost. But brand awareness is also important, as we talked about before. And brand awareness is really basically measured in terms of what marketeers call engagement. And engagement depends a little bit on what platform you are on, but it can be things like number of clicks, number of visitors to your booth, number of times you're cited, number of new LinkedIn contacts, whatever it is that you're going to be measuring. And then put a monetary value on that. Put a monetary value on that level of engagement, that brand awareness growth that you've managed to have in that trade show. And that way, you get a better understanding of the sales plus brand awareness that you're getting out of a trade show. Now, step one then will be figuring out your budget. Your budget is your booth, obviously, but it's also travel. It's also shipping, and especially if you've got heavy equipment, shipping things over. And time. It's also about opportunity cost. And the fact that you've got senior management engaged in a trade show means they're not doing other things. It means that they're focused on that trade show. Calculate that. Put that into the cost. Put the cost, bump the cost up to real numbers. Don't just take, my flight, my hotel, and the booth cost. It's much more than that. So make sure the costs are real. As a rule of thumb, we've worked quite a bit with Reed, with Hannover Messe, Frankfurt Messe, and I once asked them, what's the typical budget if you cost out realistically? As a rule of thumb, they've told me, take the real cost of a booth and times it by 3. Just saying, that could be like as a rule of thumb for you to figure out your total budget of the trade show. What about my desired ROI? What should my ROI be? Combination of that sales, that number, and the brand awareness. And up to you to decide is it 70-30, is it 60-40, is it 80-20? What is the balance between sales that I want, actual dollars in my account, and long-term thought leadership, long-term brand awareness. Put them both together and say, I need that amount in order to justify this trade show. Again, talking to people like Hannover Messe and things, they basically indicated to me that they think that an attendee gets good value for money, solid, good ROI if it's 3 times the budget. So 3 times the rule of 3 each time, 3 times that total cost. And when we're looking at it, as we're including a lot more of those things like brand awareness and so on, we look at it as a total budget times 5. So your costs times 5 would be a very good outcome from your trade show. This is a typical thing that they're looking at. So step 3 is the measuring your key performance indicators. So how do I get those sales? How do I get that brand awareness and that mix? And those are the strategies that you're going to be talking about today. So there you go. So that's sort of like this sales, this brand awareness. Put a monetary value on brand awareness. That is your total return. The total cost, more or less 3 times the cost of a booth. Obviously not the subsidized booths at the American Pavilion, a real booth, and then either a 3 times budget or even a 5 times budget to give you satisfaction there. Right. Before we go on, let's do another quick poll. We wanted to know, are you already signed up for your trade shows? Got it all organized? Are you, I was just talking to a client of ours, and he said we're just drawing up our total budget and calendar today. They're actually scaling back to just 10 trade shows this year, but, so let me give you some feedback. Most of you have signed up for multiple trade shows, like the big majority of you. Nobody is still undecided. A couple of people still planning, but nobody is still undecided. That's good. You're all at trade shows. Hope to see you there as well. All right, let's dive in. Before you go, there are two big aspects to talk about before you go to a trade show: the reach out and the preparation. And that's basically creating the buzz that you need. Typically, when we start working with clients, we work 8 weeks. We would like to work 10 weeks, but at least 8 weeks before the event. So that's 2 months before the event. You've got to start working on making sure the event is a success for them. And the first one is defining your goals and your return on investment. That's what we talked about earlier. Defining your sales goals, your brand awareness goals, and those KPIs to get there, and the return on investment that you need to have. That's what we talked about. Second thing you need to do 8 weeks before that event is really look at your CRM, really look at your databases and identify your key targets. If we go to this trade show, who do we have to meet? Who are the key people we need to meet at that trade show? Next step is to create a dedicated landing page. This is typically a landing page is typically an extra page on your website, and that's going to collect all the information, have all the right forms on it, and it will evolve quickly over time. So it's going to be the place where you bounce all your social media on, where you bounce all your advertising, everything else, and in one page, anyone looking to connect with you can find everything they need to know on that one page. Okay, and then again, I'll detail that a bit more later on. The next one is tell everybody. Put it on your LinkedIn, put it on your website, tell everybody that you're actually going, and make sure that the organizers are aware. Many of the organizers will have things that you can bounce around with and plug into. And again, I'll get onto this. And then prepare your content calendar, getting everything lined up in advance. Because 8 weeks before sounds like, plenty of time. But as you get towards the event, less and less time, more and more stuff to do. During the event, there's no time to prepare anything. After the event, you're exhausted. And so it's good to have everything ready in advance as much as you can. It's all about preparation. Little tip as well, remember to tell people inside your company. Amazing how many times you'll come back from a trade show and someone say, you went there? Hold on, one of our biggest customers, did you meet up? Or whatever. So remember to tell people inside your company about things as well. Let me get that now. We talked a little bit about the ROI and things like that. Now let's talk about targets. And here I want to bring up a notion. It's very basic to marketing and sales. It's a buyer persona and the buyer's journey. So if you're going to an international trade show, you need to figure out how your international buyer persona is different from your domestic buyer persona. And if so, in what ways are they different? Your buyer persona is the person. It's a person, not a company, a person who actually signs the check, who actually writes the order. So that's the person you're targeting, the person you're trying to get in touch with, and individual that you're trying to sort of nurture and develop a relationship with, so that you meet up at the trade show. And here's a couple of questions you can ask, particularly with yourself, particularly about international trade shows, about international buyer personas. Sorry. The image on the right hand side of the screen is from L'Oreal US. And L'Oreal are very attuned to who their buyer persona is. And their US buyer persona, in their minds, they've figured it out. They're women. They're on the top floor. It's very urban. They're all plugged in or talking. They're all on machines in disparate groups. This is so someone looking at that image, if you are a L'Oreal buyer persona, L'Oreal assumes that you would immediately recognize yourself in that image. If we look at L'Oreal Mexico, it's a bit different. L'Oreal Mexico, still very urban, still on the top floor, still an office environment, but they're more collegiate. They're together. There's men in the image too. So L'Oreal has figured that in Mexico, the buyer persona would identify with that image. L'Oreal Canada has a different image again. So in Canada, perhaps a more diverse population, a more mosaic, cultural mosaic as they call it. L'Oreal has figured out that that is the buyer persona that is the image that the buyer persona would resonate with. So in that sense, you can see how L'Oreal is adapting its imagery and its message as well, according to each buyer persona in each market. And that's the kind of thing you're going to have to look at when you're having international trade shows and you want to engage with international reach outs. So then the reach outs themselves, when you're looking at sort of trying to get those prospects, you've got a database of contacts. It might be a very small one. You want to enlarge that database of contacts. There's, how do you do that? One thing you want to do is make sure that you know which priorities. These are the people and the companies that we absolutely have to engage with. And how do we do that? Well, we first of all, follow them on LinkedIn, connect on LinkedIn, send them a message on LinkedIn. And the manufacturing, especially advanced manufacturing sector, you're all on LinkedIn. So, and make it real and make it a quality. Share those quality problem solving content that you have. Say, here's an issue and we have a solution for this issue. I know it's a problem. Here's the real problem, the detail of it. We can help you solve that problem. I wanted to point out as well that a lot of trade shows, and I'm sure you know this, but it's not always leveraged high enough. Trade show organizers have abilities to give you databases and segment and sort out and look at who's attending these trade shows. You can actually, you could actually download a whole database from it if you want, go through yourself and go through Sales Navigator or other screenings to make sure that you're capturing all that information. There are also service providers, things like Molly at U.S. Commercial Service, that can organize business-to-business matchmaking meetings for you, like the U.S. Commercial Service Gold Key. So there's a lot of things that are already there. There are a lot of service providers within the trade show that are there to help you, and things. One of the classics that we would do as well is just call up the organizers and say, hey, we're representing a great company. They're coming to your trade show. They're interested in, for example, a speaker slot, in joining a roundtable, in really engaging. So you don't just have a booth there. You're really totally engaged in the trade show itself. You're the person who's speaking at a certain event or hosting a demonstration or something like that. So your company is really involved in the whole sphere. So we talked about your targets. Now let's talk about your website and your digital strategy as well. Your website's really important. It's almost more important, I think, for your international audience than it can be for your domestic audience, because your website is the place where people will go and judge you. They'll go and take a first impression. You might see your booth, not come up right away. They'll look at the QR code, take you to your website, and check you out. So make sure your website is functional, is good, and at least has a certain quality to it to make sure that it represents your brand well. If you have international websites, it's a really, really great tool also to give in-market partners and sales reps to say, here's a Spanish language website for my Latin American business. So my distributors can now use that and help drive their business for that. So, it's a really, really strong, make sure that it is a good one, and good enough at least for because people will check you out. And this is increasingly the case. People do not want to be cold called. They don't want to be contacted. They want to check you out first. And they will check out your website, especially on international things. I talked about landing pages and sort of, what is a landing page? So a landing page, as I said, is a page on your website which is dedicated to the event. And actually, you can keep it year to year if it's one of those big trade shows that you go to regularly. You just use the same one again, or just update it and so on. It makes you a bit of a thought leader in that sector. After the trade show, you just make it private so that nobody can see it anymore. But it's still there, and you can reuse it. You can use it for other trade shows. So once you have a landing page, it's a really good way of assembling information and making sure that people are getting all the information that they need to have. A landing page changes radically between when you create it 2 months before the event and after the event. So it is continuously being updated. So the first ones could be, "Hi, we're coming to this trade show," and then during the trade show, it shows all the latest events. Like, "Hi, we're having a demo at our booth at 4 o'clock, or whatever it is, or we're going to the cocktail at 6. Are you joining?" And afterwards, it can also say, "Thank you so much. We had a great time. Here are some resources about us." So the landing page really is a very, very plastic, very flexible tool on your website. So when you're putting things on LinkedIn, for example, about the trade show, you can link that landing page to that comment so that people say, "Okay, where do I get the information about your trade?" So you're going to a trade show. Where do I get the information about your booth, what you're doing, and so on? I go to a landing page, and there it all is. See, so it's a way of just showing of increasing the information that you have. So it's a really great, value-added content showing your product, showing your company, and so on. Make sure, obviously, that you're really easy to get in touch with. If you're going to Latin America, put a WhatsApp number on it. Don't just use your 1-800 numbers. They probably don't work outside the US. So to make sure really easy to get in touch with and have a strong landing page for that. So you've got your database, you've got your landing page. Now let's look at content. So again, these sort of, we talked about 2 months before, about a month before, 5 weeks before, you should really start having content dedicated and focused on that trade show. And those can be things like just a normal post that you've got on LinkedIn, which shows a bit more about your leadership, about your expertise, about how good you are in that sector, what you bring to the trade show, what if you got a new product launch, anything like that. Make sure that you're writing it all out. And what we like to do is make sure that it's all planned in advance. You can write most of the content before the show, and then it's all there, ready to be launched at the right time. And even prepare the emails going out after the show. Just afterwards, have to put in the name and the right little sentence, but the bulk of it is there. The body is already there. It takes all the work out of it when you get back, which I'll get on to later. So your content calendar depends on the company, depends on the sector, depends on where you're feeling most comfortable at. But typically, you'll say, "Okay, my buyer persona for that trade show loves LinkedIn. And they're a mix of, let's say, I don't know, Korean and English." Right? So I'm going to have some Korean things ready in advance for that and some English things ready in advance for that. And I'm going to have a selection. I'm going to have a little mini video. I'm going to have a blog. I'm going to have a client testimonial. I'll have a news item, all those different types of formats that'll come on, so that you indeed have this very structured social media approach to it. The reason that you want to do that is to try and reach the right people with the right message at the right time. That's what's so important about those things. So it's a matter of building up your brand awareness, building up some traction before, creating that buzz before you actually get to the event. I want to do a special little sideways mention of videos these days. We did say that trade shows these days are changing quite a bit. They're much more hybrid, more visual. People expect more technology in it. And videos, I want to say just they're a tremendous asset to have. And these days, anyone with a decent iPhone can make good enough videos that you can actually post before and especially during the the event. So really, it's really worth having, especially if you're producing a content calendar to say what videos can I do. You can produce a lot of them before the event as well, particularly if you're going to do things that show product demos or expertise in a particular sector. Do that in advance of the trade show, so that when you're at the trade show, you've got it ready in your hand, as it were, for that. They are, again, the point about videos is that they are also tremendously good for international sites. And I'll get that in a moment as well. So I wanted to sort of group together some of these things that we've talked about. Events before the show, 8 to 10 weeks. Here's your little sort of like cheat sheet takeaway that you can talk about here. Define your goals. What is the required return on investment for this trade show? Identify your buyer persona, your international buyer persona at that trade show. What are they like? What platform do they use? What kind of information do they need to have to engage with them? Make the relevant changes to your website. Add a dedicated landing page to your website, which is easy forms, good CTAs. CTAs are calls to action and value-added content. Get your content calendar ready and sorted well in advance, typically 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks in advance. Have it all there ready. It just needs to be top and tailed at the end. Engage with the organizers. Don't forget the organizers are there to help. And I should have also put in engage with people like the U.S. Commercial Service. And then announce that you're actually going. Tell people that you're going to this thing. And put it on your LinkedIn profile, put it on the company's LinkedIn profile. And you can link also very often to the actual event. If you do that, and if you get them to link back to you, it's a huge, what's called a backlink strategy. It's a big, big thing for your website, for your social media. It gives you extra domain authority. Right. I think we have another poll. Otherwise, I think one of the last polls here. Would you like to learn more about online marketing? If so, let us know. We can send you some blogs. We'll send you some newsletters or whatever, and we can. Thank you very much. We'll be in touch or send you things. Right. Let's talk now about the show. So we've talked about goals and KPIs, strategies, action plan. The biggest message is no time to sleep. Right. Your event strategy is looking at that landing page. I think on the next slide. Your event strategy, looking at that landing page, making sure your landing page is really showing the latest details. It's got your booth number, and maybe have you sort of there setting up your booth. All kinds of things happening on your landing page. Engage in social media right from the start, even before the show actually starts. Say, I'm there tomorrow. Here's our booth number. Here's what, and so on. The power of video, leverage the power of video, and then network. Make sure that you have a list of plan it all in advance. Now that you got there, make sure that you say, okay, you're going to that place. We're going to this show. We're going to that exhibition. We're going to this product demo. We're going to go and see that competitor. All those things so they're well organized. We like to think that people go with 2 to even 3 people per show. You need at least 2. One person has to man the desk. One person has to walk around. One person has to go. And my recommendation is go to every event. Go to every party, because that's where a lot of the networking happens. And no good bringing introverts, that's for sure. Bring people who are really out there. So using social media, a lot of manufacturing companies say, social media, a little bit uncomfortable. Shake that off. Social media is not just it is a very powerful tool to tell people where you are, how you're doing, what you're doing, and so on. Post photos and the videos. At the trade show, here's your pictures of your booth, pictures of you, pictures of your products and things. Try and do a live stream, do a webinar, do a live stream, do a keynote speaker moment, engage in forums, roundtables, discussions, panels, all those things. And remember to use the event hashtag. It will amplify anything you do. And again, looking at your CRM and that database, engaging directly with your target prospects during the show as well. If they come to your booth, send them a message saying, thank you so much. Really enjoyed meeting you. It just takes 2 seconds and you've already prepared the text. Remember in your pre-show. But most importantly, that local buyer persona. It's called respecting your local buyer persona. If your buyer persona is bad in English or whatever, is not comfortable in English, just add something perhaps in their native language, just as a token. It'll help. That kind of thing just helps to break that ice. Remember, your buyer persona is a person, not a company. It's a person. Your booth, having an engaging booth, obviously it's a matter of budget, but you can make a lot even with a small budget. And again, incorporating that landing page into your social media and your trade show booth. So just saying, put your QR code on your booth. Remember your QR code. Remember also your screens, your videos. All of those things help to engage and make a more engaging booth that you could relate to. While you're at the trade show, remember that video marketing is really important. Again, I'm talking about videos and how they help amplify your message, especially in international shows. An image, you don't even need the words. You can just have the imagery, and that's all you need. The videos are seriously easy to share. They get great engagement levels. It improves your brand. You can measure ROI very easily with videos as well. And then obviously, I said they're great for international audiences. Using your iPhone, and don't be scared to do this. Both of these videos that are taken by some clients of ours, both of them were taken by people who are not video experts, and they took them on iPhones. And then we then edited them, but they gave us the raw footage, and they're both fantastic videos. Videos are for different things. They can be for demos. They can be for presentations. They can have a Q&A, sort of two people talking about things. They can have a tour of your booth. So it's a real magnet. You can have a screen above your booth which shows it on loops. So these are really very engaging, good things to have. Going through during the show, a sort of little cheat sheet for you on the next slide. I want just to again have some thoughts of takeaways of this period. Reach out directly to your targets. Reach out before the event and during the event. And during the event, once they have come to your booth, send them a quick note on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, it was a great pleasure to meet." Be a content creator. Get your iPhone out. Take pictures of the booth. Take pictures of where you are in the show. If you're going to be a keynote speaker, take pictures of that stage and that event and that time. Use the hashtags for the event as well, for the trade show. Continuously be refreshing your landing page. Make sure that it's up to date, that the imagery is correct, that it's engaging for people. And then network. Just going out, go to every party, I've said, but really just try and engage with all the audience there. After the curtain falls, so after things wrap up, you arrive back home and you're exhausted. But it's okay because you've prepared everything 2 months before the event, and now you just have to top tail and make sure that it's all correctly sort of organized. And that's going to be your post-event strategy. One of the key things you want to do for that post-event strategy is get back to your CRM, get back to your database. We like to think, and I'll do this in a moment, I'll give you some more information on that in a moment, but segmenting your database becomes really important now. Who are the people that you met that are really hot leads? Who are the ones that are more slow burn, and who are the ones sort of in the middle? Who are the ones that are not going to be clients but potential distributors? or potential partners. Segmenting your database as soon as you can after the event is going to save a lot of time and will help you with that post-event strategy. You don't want to be sending the same message to everybody. You want to send, those are the hot leads, I need to send them a different message from potential distributors. So again, those are that email marketing, which you've prepared in advance, now comes to be the key action item. The third thing that we've said is leveraging all that content from the event. You prepared content before the event and during the event. We're now going to change that and reuse that content and redeploy it. Let's just dig in and unpack a little bit first that thing about the CRM. When I'm talking about sort of harnessing your CRM. If you want to have, segmenting those contacts that you've all had, let's say you have some hot leads, some really strong leads that you met at the trade show. They want to be followed up very quickly. Within a week of the trade show, you want to be sending them emails, more demos, more, and things that you could send. You could send them sort of nurturing and demos as well. Demonstrations, client testimonials. These are all what are called market qualified leads or sales qualified leads. Excuse me. So MQLs or SQLs that you'll be doing for them. So nurturing your leads with email campaigns, just find where your buyer is on that journey first, what content they should get. So if they're still at the awareness stage of the buyer's journey, if they're still saying, well, I'm trying to figure out, where you are as a company and versus the competitors, send them blogs, send them information about your products, things like that. If they're looking at sort of considering you versus a competitor, client testimonial, and then that whole, the fact that you've all had this experience together, you've all experienced the trade show together, so that common bond. Repurpose the content then on the different platforms that you can have. When we talk about a bespoke email marketing strategy, that's really just trying to keep that conversation going from the trade show, pushing it on along the journey, saying, and this is a typical email strategy. The first one is basically, thank you for that meeting. Thank you very much for coming to the booth and so on. It was great meeting you. I've put you in touch with so-and-so as well. And in our company, now you're getting a wider view of the company. Second email could be address some of the challenges that the industry is facing, that we're all facing, and how you as a company can help overcome those challenges. And then perhaps a new client email campaign goes rolling on to nurture people over the longer term between trade shows, between one trade show and another. Leveraging the assets that you created over time as well is now a terrific time to do that. You've created all these things on your iPhone or on infographics, on blogs, and all those things that you created. We're now going to repurpose them. If you created a little blog, let's chop it down, sync it, and put it on LinkedIn. You have a great new video, let's edit it, optimize it, put it on your website. And again, you can take some of these and just turn them into different formats, different platforms, or for other trade shows coming up. As we like to say, rinse, lather, repeat. Don't waste good content. Some takeaways, some next steps, and hopefully some questions for you. So I guess from the takeaways now, I guess from our point of view is when we look at the future of sales and how that works, it is from our point of view and from what we see in our clients, it is very much a digital first event. People want to check you out on your website, on your social media presence before engaging. They don't just want to go straight into a request for quote. They want to first figure out who you are as a company and whether you actually fit their bill. Are you able to fulfill the international contract? If your website looks too American, too small, then they're like, I don't know if they really can. So all that has to be taken into account. So they need to have that digital first, that reassurance and things. And then when we say customer centric, that really is because the importance of respecting your local buyer persona. Everything on the web is always searcher centric, person centric. customer centric in that sense. A couple of takeaways as well. Some things that we think are important. Some digital must-haves. Basically, making sure that your website is fit for purpose, and that it's performing well for you. That when people look at that website, it reflects the quality of your brand. That it reflects how great you are as a company, and how resourceful you are as a team, and what great products you have at your service. So make sure that it has that's optimized, that there's good imagery, that's easy to navigate on all those things. And then some easy wins, particularly for the international markets. These are more general, not just for trade shows. But something we see very often is that companies don't actually realize how valuable their URLs are. Your URL is your internet address, your internet real estate, in a sense. So don't give those away. Don't hand them to distributors or whatever. Don't give them to your international reps. Own them yourself. Talk to the world. Make sure that you have a good LinkedIn profile. Make sure that you have the right online presence for that stuff. We said, imagery speaks 1,000 words. Make sure that the imagery is good for that. Showcase your international expertise. That's something we see a lot. Again, your websites can be quite U.S. centric. So try and say, we made in the USA, sold worldwide is a great caption. Bring in client testimonials from non-U.S. Clients as well. And, you can highlight those wins with the client testimonials. That's important. Obviously, getting in touch really easy. Not just the 1-800 numbers, but give a variety of different forms so that your buyer persona can choose how they want to get in touch with you. And then lastly, focus, making sure that you're not spreading yourself too thin. Focus on lowest hanging fruits internationally. Usually works best. We like to also think that your online tools can help empower your sales and marketing teams. I like to think of them as almost a person. Bring them into most companies have like a weekly sales and marketing, meeting. Bring them right in. You're going to a trade show. Well, put a banner on your website. Put it up on your LinkedIn page. This sort of thing. You've got a new product. Put it up there. There's a lot you can do, making sure that you are always using your digital assets and your digital toolkit to empower your sales and marketing team. Lastly, those sort of trade show takeaways. There were those cheat sheets during the presentation that we said, for the before, during, and after events. But really, it's breaking it down into saying sort of, the before. It's all about what kind of ROI do I need, the major preparation that happens before the event, and reaching out in your email and establishing your email campaigns. During, it's making sure that you're focused on your objectives and refreshing that landing page, getting your QR codes, getting your videos, networking. Post is segmenting your CRM, setting up your email campaigns, and arguably preparing for the next one. There's lots of stuff on our website that you can download for free. Our website is ibt.onl, IBT Online. And if you go to the resources section, there's lots that you can download for free. And obviously for the trade.gov advanced manufacturing industry, Molly and her team have lots of things that you can engage with, and it's a very, very active segment of the economy. And Molly and her team are very responsive and great assets for you all to have. With that, I'm hoping that there's some questions that have come in. There's a couple, actually. First of all, thank you all so much for listening to all that. But a couple of questions before we sign off. The couple of people are asking, will we get the slide deck and will we get the recording? You will get the recording tomorrow in your inbox. If you want the slide deck specifically, let me know and I can send you the slide deck as a PDF. It's hard to attach it to the recording, otherwise the email gets so heavy. But if you want the slide deck as well, let me know and I can just send that to you. because a couple of, I think it's Anik and Thomas and a couple of other people are asking that question. So yes, we have it. Another question that's also come in is for Molly, perhaps. The grants that are available for trade shows, do I ask U.S. Commercial Service or the SBA or who?
Oh yeah, great question. I know it is because every STEP grant is administered by the state government, but the money comes from the federal government and the state administers it. So I would say ask your local contact at the U.S. Commercial Service because we work closely. I'm in Colorado. I work very closely with my counterparts in Colorado and able to connect companies to the correct person. So just go through your U.S. Commercial Service local contact.
It's a bit of a strange one here, but for you, Molly, as well, perhaps, because I don't really have an answer. Is there advantages to being part of the U.S. pavilion in a trade show, or is it better off to be on my own?
Yes, I would say, especially if it's a big trade show and you're going to have a small booth, you're going to get more foot traffic when you're in a U.S. pavilion. And then the other side is if you start to get bigger, then it might make sense for you to maybe have your own larger booth, maybe in a certain space in the trade show. So what I've seen work for companies, especially SMEs, small to medium-sized companies, is they'll start off in a U.S. pavilion, and they have. It's also easier logistic-wise and that kind of wise to be in a U.S. pavilion because a lot of the stuff is taken care of by the U.S. pavilion organizer. But then as a company, continues to keep coming back to that trade show, maybe finds a local partner, and they're just entering that market bigger and bigger, then a lot of times they will go off and then have their own larger booth than they would have had before. So it's almost like they graduate to that next step. I feel like that seems to work with most companies.
Is the U.S. pavilion subsidized?
No, you would have to. We as the U.S. government, they don't subsidize any U.S. pavilions. I know it's different in other countries. However, you could use that STEP grant. A lot of states will have a booth in a U.S. pavilion, and then they do have grants through there. So definitely talk to your local U.S. Commercial Service contact.
Okay. So a couple of questions as well about marketing, which is how best to identify buyer personas in different markets. It's almost like as long as a piece of thread. You know what? There's reams of information about it. I always find the best way, invite your sales and marketing team, sit around a table, get them all a cup of coffee, maybe some donuts, say, right, who are you selling to these days? And, detail it. Are they, ask simple questions. Are they male or female? What age are they? Are they English speakers or not? Are they good at technology? And so on. And just ask them all the questions. It's probably all in your salesman's heads. That's probably the simplest and fastest way to get it, I always think. But otherwise, there's lots of different strategies for identifying a buyer persona for that. We're pretty well out of time. There's one last question that's also come in. Is there particular forms of video which work best? Again, there's a whole other section about videos, and there's lots on our website about that. I would say for during the show and for shows, keep it short and light. Very often shows have bad internet because everybody's on their phone, so that you're having problems posting things. Keep it short and light, like 30 seconds is a decent video for during the show. After the show, you can make it a bit longer. We rarely do anything longer than a minute for any kind of like product or event video for that. Right. I keep getting questions about, yes, I will send the slide deck and I will send the recording. But I wanted to give a special thank you to Molly and her team in the advanced manufacturing, doing a great job and helping. And I think as manufacturing companies, you've got a great asset there. Reach out to Molly and her team. And figure out if you want to go to those trade shows that she mentioned in Poland and Turkey and other trade shows that you're organizing. And then I wanted to thank you all so much for listening and taking the time out of your day. We know that you're all busy, so we appreciate it very much. Happy trade shows.
Yes, thank you, Susanna, for your expertise. There's some great actionable items, so thank you.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you very much. And I hope to see you all at the next trade show. I'll be walking around your booths, taking pictures. Okay. Thank you all so much. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye.